Welcome back to another video with me, HayleyDoesVlogs. In today's video I thought that we could sit down and talk about university. So I know that obviously for most people they're probably already going to be nearly 4 or 5 months into starting their university course, whether you are a first year, second year or third year. I just thought that I would sit down and sort of film a video for you guys, just explaining my experience from university, the things that helped me to get through university, and obviously just the things in general that I enjoyed and did not enjoy. So yeah, that's just sort of what I wanted to make a video on, because I know that university can be like a really difficult time for many people. For me personally, I sort of have like mixed emotions about university, about like the course that I did, obviously in terms of travelling, and there was also a huge pandemic going on during the time obviously that I was at university, so it was a bit crazy. So yeah, I just thought, you know, I'd sit down with you guys and just talk through different things that helped me, things that I learnt from university, like general life skills. So yeah, I just thought my experiences might be able to help somebody else going through a bit of a tough time at university. If you're unsure if it's for you or not, if you're having doubts, or if you are just genuinely really enjoying university, then that's great. This could also help you as well and benefit you in some form of way, shape, way or form. So yeah, on that note we will get into the video. Okay, so I actually started university in 2019. So originally I wanted to study at a local university that was close to me, but then when I was in my last year of college, and we had to fill out like I can't actually remember what it's called, but you do it like at the end of your year at university at college, and it sort of just sets you up for like applications for university. So obviously I filled out mine, and then you pick like 4 or 5 different universities that you would like to go to. So obviously I picked my 4 or 5, I can't actually remember if it's 4 or 5. So anyway, I picked my top like 4 or 5 universities that I wanted to go to and that I wanted to get into. So I did all the process that was required, and during my final year of college, not university, we obviously you get invited to interviews, and you also get invited to like it's called like an open day, where you can sort of look around, you can take a family member with you and just sort of obviously have a look around at the different universities, see what you think of them, look at like the campus where you'll be studying, where you'll be living, different things like that. So I actually never went to any of them because personally for me I just didn't have the time, because I was working a full-time job and I was also studying at college full-time. So for me that was like I was really struggling to sort of get a day off, or you know, just struggling for money to travel down somewhere or to go check it out. So I found for me that it was just easier to do sort of like a virtual tour, so you can actually view the campus and different things like that online. Now I know that it's completely different viewing something online than it is actually seeing it in person. So I was just like, yeah, like you can kind of build like a rough like image in your head of what you think it's going to look like and the sort of feel that you get from it. So obviously I picked my top 4 or 5. I got invited to a interview for, I think it was 3 or 4 of them that I got accepted into. Well, not like accepted fully, but they'd accepted my application to apply to that university. So I went down for these interviews, was completely nervous. I went on my own. I travelled down by train. For some of the interviews they were as early as 8:30 in the morning. So obviously travelling from like point A to point B, and then from point B to point C. Some of the journeys were like over an hour long. And for someone who's quite anxious as it is anyway, I was quite apprehensive about obviously travelling on my own, but I knew that obviously going to university you've got to learn to start being a bit more independent. Not that I wasn't independent anyway, I just never had been on a train by myself or done anything like that, so obviously it was a big milestone and a big step obviously for me to take by myself. So obviously I went down for these interviews, got accepted. Obviously you will get like an acceptance letter or a rejection letter through the post. So yeah, I remember being accepted, and I actually chose to go to the University of Chester. Chester is a beautiful, beautiful place, don't get me wrong. I absolutely loved going down to Chester. I still go down there sometimes now, obviously for like a day trip or, you know, just for general bits and bobs. So that was one step for me, and I was like, oh, I was so happy. So anyway, I got all like the documentation through, and I then was like, oh poop, like I'm gonna have to travel from home to Chester, and I'm gonna stay there for so long, and I'm not gonna be coming back home. So I was a bit like, oh, okay. So, you know, all your nerves start getting in the way, and you're like, oh my god, I need to make sure I see everybody before I go. I need to do this, I need to do that. And before you know it, you are very, very nervous. And I remember buying like my first set of saucepans, my own cutlery, general bits and bobs like that. I remember filling a suitcase just full of like unnecessary stuff that I just really did not need. And what nobody ever tells you, that when you are going into your first year of university, do not pack everything in your room. Like, I made that mistake. I packed everything that was in my room. So I'm talking, I cleared the whole of my wardrobe out. I cleared most of my chest of drawers out. I basically took the whole of my bedroom to university with me, not knowing that I would have to move it all the way back home, and that I would be transporting from there back home every so often during half term. And the half term breaks are a lot more than what you think. I assumed that the half term breaks would be like what you get in college or what you get in high school. It is nothing like that. I felt like, for me personally, I spent more time having a half term or a study week than I actually did being on site. But that was fine because I quite enjoyed that. I preferred to study in my own space and in sort of like my own time, so that was really helpful for me. So yeah, tip number one, if you are obviously going to university, if you are going for a first year, do not pack everything that is in your bedroom at home, because you definitely will not need it. And just be mindful of how much washing you accumulate, because obviously when I went to university, I just assumed that in your accommodation you would automatically have a washer and a dryer. No, I had to walk. I think it took me about 15 to 20 minutes a day. Not every day, but I would, like, probably once a week. It took me 20 minutes with a big bag of shopping, like a shopping bag full of like clothing, down past people, and go and fill up a washer and a dryer in a spare room, which was like the facilities clothing washing room, and you had to pay for that. So you actually had your own laundry card, and you had to pay for your own laundry to be washed and dried. And they do not take a short time. They take ages. And when I mean ages, I think I can remember one time I was sat in there for about 2 hours, because it takes over an hour for your wash to do. And then obviously if people are in front of you and there's no washers spare, you just sit around and you're like, oh well, I may as well just wait, because you've walked all that way and you're like, well, I'm literally running low on things to wear, so obviously you're just gonna wait. And then obviously, because I accumulated so much washing, I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be doing this every week. So what I used to do is, because quite frequently I would come like back home, so I would bring a bag full of washing back home with me, and I would do it simply like obviously when I got back home. I know that that isn't doable for everybody, because I know that some people who move to university move like a very long distance away from home. So obviously if that isn't possible, then I would probably suggest maybe trying a dry cleaners first before actually using the facilities on site, purely just because everybody goes there and everybody has the same idea, and it's usually on a Sunday that everybody has the same idea to go and do their laundry. So yeah, that was never fun. And then obviously you get your student loan, and I would highly advise that you try to keep to like a good budget, especially obviously if you are not working wherever you've moved to, or you know, things like that. If you aren't working, you are going to 100% rely on your bursary that you are being paid from the university, which you will have the opportunity to apply for. Now your student loan does depend upon both parents' income in your household, and which part of the UK you're in. So it can vary from different households, and it can vary from obviously your parents' income. So obviously my rent that I was paying, so obviously this includes obviously like all your standard bills, I think I was paying about 1,500, and I think that obviously most months you would only get like a £2,000 bursary, which has then got to last you for 3 months before you get your next one. So obviously it really does add up, obviously, and then you're doing food shopping and things like that. Now I did eat pretty well whilst I was at university because I knew how to cook, but I know that there is people that obviously don't know how to cook. So obviously if you do know how to cook, it is always nice to obviously, you know, start encouraging your other flatmates or your other housemates to sort of learn to cook, or to, I don't know, maybe share meals, and obviously they just pay you, or you know, you learn to budget, and sort of just help each other out basically, because I know that not everybody knows how to cook, and some people do really struggle with those types of things. So it's always nice to have somebody who you are living with who sort of knows how to cook and who can sort of take the fort. But obviously, you know, I know that there are some people who you might not get along with. It's university, it's life. Unfortunately, we don't always get on with every single person that we come across, but that is absolutely fine. It is life, and I know that people will clash. Another thing, there is such a thing called freshers flu. If you hear freshers flu before you go to university, just know that it is a real thing. So the freshers flu is basically described as a cold which you will get during your first freshers week at university, and it is actually a thing. So it's just basically where you will get invited to a load of social groups during your first week of university, and then by the end of the week you will be really ill. So you'll have a cold, and it happened to me, it happened to everybody else, and I didn't believe people that that was true until I actually experienced Freshers Week, and then I was really ill. So it is actually a thing. So don't think that it's not, and don't think that you'll get away with it, because I thought that I would, and I was totally wrong. So yeah, obviously, like I said, Freshers Flu is a thing, and you will get it. Trust me. So make sure you're prepared. Make sure, obviously, when you get in from a night out, make sure you have something to eat. Take 2 paracetamol and down a glass of water before you go to bed. I know that it might seem a merely impossible. We've all been there and we've all done it. But yeah, that is a tip. And always make sure that you obviously have some Sudafed, you have some Lemsip, and just basically make sure that you look after yourselves. Because that is like obviously #1 priority. So yeah, there's like a lot of different emotions that you will feel through university. There's a lot of different people you will meet. Some people you might get on with, some people you might not get on with, and you might clash, but that is perfectly fine. It happens. For me, I only stayed in accommodation for 5 months of my first year of university, and I decided that it wasn't for me, and I just wasn't happy. So I obviously decided to move back home, and then shortly, I think it was 2 months after I'd moved home, obviously COVID started, and we were doing lectures like virtually. So obviously prior to me moving back home, I had to then remove all of my stuff out of accommodation, but I also had to keep paying my fees, so obviously my rent, even though I was no longer living there. And I don't know the reason why that was. I think it's obviously because you sign a contract to say that your fees will be paid for the year, so obviously you are agreeing to pay your fees for the year, even if you move out or something along those lines happen. So obviously I had to continue paying for my accommodation, the fees. I still had to pay all of those, but luckily for me, I was working a full-time job, so obviously I was earning income alongside my bursary money from university, which was absolutely fine. So yeah, that was that. Another tip that I will give you, obviously if you are at university, is have some sort of like educational structure. So make sure that alongside your studies you are also finding time to spend it with friends, spend it with family, have a self-care night. Obviously just make sure that you are looking after yourself, because it is a very, I'm not going to say it can be stressful, but it's a very weird time. A lot is going on, especially if you move away from home and home is all you've ever known. It is very different, and you might feel like you sort of lose yourself in the process, because for me, I felt like I couldn't be who I was. So I would spend most of my time in my room, and I just didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought that I would, but that was perfectly fine. There's no shame or harm in admitting that. It's different, it's a different experience for everybody, but I still had a good time. And one of the important things is obviously just to remember that yes, if you have gone to university to get a degree, if you decide that it is no longer for you and you decide that you want to drop out, or you want to change course, or you want to take time out, then that is perfectly fine. It doesn't suit everybody, and for me, definitely being restricted of certain things, that wasn't for me, and just genuinely feeling alone, that can be quite a difficult time, and I didn't enjoy the feeling of feeling like I was alone, and being so far away from everything that I know, everything that I've grown up with, things like that. So for me, moving back home, I genuinely to this day still believe that I made the right decision, and I know that I wouldn't have been mentally happy if I had stayed, but that was fine because I adapted to learning online. And then obviously when restrictions were eased because of COVID, I was finally able to travel back down. Now the travel only took me about an hour, so that wasn't too long, but I preferred that much more than staying down there, not knowing what was going on at home, you know, not being able to see people as often as I did, and obviously I just worked every other day apart from my one day for university. So yeah, for me, I didn't really see much point in staying down there or living down there just for one day of education. So I preferred to be at home, travel down for the one day, come back home, and I would always find time for my studies outside of that. And one thing that really helped me through my studies was finding these little helpful diaries. I know that this is this year's, but these are by a brand called BusyBee, and these are such useful diaries. So you can obviously plan like your days, so it has like the day section, and then it will have like your notes section, so you can write notes, to-do lists, and it also has like little pocket areas for you to put little notes in. And one thing that really helped me, obviously through COVID and through getting through university, was I brought myself just like a standard, like a bigger diary, just a plain one with no days or anything like that, and it was more of like a notebook. And every day I would write down things that I am thankful for, what I want to achieve that week, and most importantly, every night I would sit down and I would write about my day, how my day has been, how I've felt during that day, anything that's upset me or anything that has made my day. I would write it down, and then at the end of the week I would reflect back on sort of my emotions, my feelings, what I've accomplished that week, what I might not have reached that week, in terms of targets, goals, etc. That was really useful for me. And I just basically spent every day, I would spend at least 2 hours studying whatever module it was that I was doing, because you get like usually 3 modules to do over like a period of time, and then you change over to 3 more modules or 2 more modules. For me, I found it useful to have a folder, and I found it useful to split my study time. So like, say for example, on a Monday I would spend 2 hours studying A module, on Tuesday I'd spend 2 hours studying B module, on Wednesday or Thursday I would spend 2 hours studying C module, and then I would like change it around like that, and that really helped. So that was a very useful tool in terms of separating sort of your workload, and just focusing on one specific area, because it will sort of blow your head if you're trying to work on one piece and then switch from that piece 20 minutes into another piece of work, and then switch from that. It will really confuse you and your head will feel like completely blagged. So that's why I used to split my days up like that, because I found it easier. And it's also important to make sure you take a lot of notes, make sure you write everything that you possibly think that you're going to need or that you want to know. And if there's something that you don't understand, I would highly advise that you first off ask your lecturer, and then I would advise, obviously if you're unsure of a certain area, just Google it and write as many notes down that you can understand. And if there are big words that you can't really understand, or that you can't pronounce, or you're unsure of what it is, Google it and look for a simpler definition of that word and put it into your own word, because then if you see that word come up, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know what that means. Like I basically made it into this word, or you know, I simplified that word to something that I can read it and understand it. Because with university there does come a lot of like complicated big words that you'll be like, what is that? I mean, I've definitely come across a few and I've been like, huh? So yeah, it's just always wise to obviously make sure that you know the words, you know what you're studying. So for me, I studied childhood, youth and professional studies because I wanted to go into social work, and obviously I know that social work is a separate course to that, but obviously you can get a like qualification, diploma, whatever, through doing that. It just gives you like it's sort of like an extra on top of whatever it is, and you can still go into doing that job with that qualification. So yeah, obviously for me, I wanted to do that course, and I enjoyed it up until a certain point. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, my camera battery died. So yeah, as I was saying, I did enjoy university up until like a certain point. So obviously after COVID, a lot changed. So obviously I got promoted at work, and I was just a different person than what I was when I first started the course. So obviously it happens, you grow, you change, things around you change, so obviously it was completely different. However, I obviously, you know, I enjoyed it up until like a certain point, like I said, and you obviously just learn to adapt to it. And I think obviously I got to, so I'd moved out of home, obviously got my own house with my partner, I got a different job, so a lot had changed, and I was just sort of struggling to find the time obviously to study. I was about 3 months away from finishing the course, and I got to a point where I was like, I'm just so ready for this to be finished now. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, and quite frankly I've had enough of this course. But I kept pushing on and I kept pushing. I didn't actually attend any lectures through the 3rd year of university, which is really bad, I know, but sometimes, like I said, you have to put your mental health first, and you have to put what you think is right first, and for me that is what felt right at the time, and I wouldn't change it because I still graduated, I still got a degree, and yeah, it was a scary, weird time, but I was just doing what I thought was right for me, and it definitely 100% was right for me. In all honesty, looking back now, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't go to university, but I would probably, if I could go back, I would change a lot of things, and obviously now being in the job that I'm in, which I absolutely love, and it's non-relevant to the course that I studied, it is a completely different area, but you know what, I absolutely love the job that I do now. I am really lucky in terms of the job that I do, the friendships that I've made at work, obviously, you know, like I've got a house, so I'm just really grateful. So I actually graduated in November of 2022, and it was just a great day. Obviously I had to go down to Chester then to obviously graduate, but apart from that it was a really good day, and I'm so glad that obviously I did keep pushing on, because for as long as I can remember, I've always just wanted to graduate, and obviously to be able to hold a certificate in my name to say that obviously I've graduated in a course that I wanted to do, but obviously just with everything that was going on with the world, and obviously moving back home and then switching jobs, being promoted, moving out of my house, you know, a lot does change, and you sort of grow as a person through all of those events, but yeah, obviously just be mindful obviously when, you know, you're going to university, and you know, obviously if you are struggling, obviously make sure that you talk to somebody, because the worst thing that you can do is obviously bottle it all up and keep it all to yourself, because it will eventually get on top of you, and it'll get on top of your workload, and it'll start obviously to take over your mind and everything that you do. So it's always just important to obviously make sure that you talk to somebody, whether that is a family member, whether it's a friend, a partner, a lecturer, or you know, if you seek advice from a counsellor, there is no shame in doing so. I sought advice obviously from my partner, who was very understanding and very supportive of me and any decision that I made. So yeah, obviously it's always nice to have somebody who you can talk to, even, you know, if you want to sit there and cry and say nothing, that is absolutely fine, or you know, if you just want to go on a mad rampage and talk about, you know, anything that you want to, it's always so important to obviously just talk about it. But yeah, so those are some of obviously my tips and a little bit of my experience about university. So yeah, I just wanted to sit down and just sort of make a video, just sort of explaining obviously what I've, you know, my course, about my university sort of lifestyle, where I went to university, and just general little bits and bobs like that. And obviously just to say, obviously, you know, if you are a first year, a second year or a third year at university, you know, I hope that obviously you make it towards the end of your degree and that you enjoy every minute of it while you can, before, you know, you are in a situation where you are paying your bills, or, you know, you're doing whatever you want to do. Just make sure obviously you try and enjoy it as best as you can, and if you don't enjoy it, then that is absolutely fine. There's no shame in that. We're all human at the end of the day. So yeah, I just want to obviously share my experiences of my highs and my lows of university. So I obviously hope you guys enjoyed this video. Sorry it's a bit talkative, and there's not really much going on, but I hope that it sort of helped in some way to know that it's okay to not fully like something that you're doing, or to have mixed emotions about it. But yeah, either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, whatever you are doing. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know if you guys have had any similar experiences with college or university. Let me know down in the comment section. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so give it a thumbs up if you did, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye.